Get ready for Mind Shock with Dr. Ron Dalrymple, the premier podcast in the world, bringing you hidden truths about your mind's incredible powers. Get ready to free your mind.
Welcome to our new podcast, Mind Shock, about our new great film called The Endless Question and the book Quantum Field Psychology. Today we have Linda Sechrist, national editor of Natural Awakenings magazine. Linda, great to see you.
Nice to be here, Ron. See you again.
Yeah, welcome back. You're in our film, of course, did a great job.
Thank you.
You've been writing for years for Natural Awakenings. Please tell us more about your background.
I have been writing for Natural Awakenings going on 16 years, and I've interviewed thousands of people, read hundreds of books on the subject of what you have in The Endless Question, and as a result, I began research specifically in that area for everything that relates to the endless question. And along the way, I have been an author in 2 ebooks, bestsellers, and then most recently, the latest book, which is actually just published, and All You Need Is Love, ... I'm here.
That's great. We're glad you're here. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Today we want to cover several topics about the endless question and quantum field psych for our audience. And the first topic we want to cover is the fact that this film and this theory is the only hard science approach linking up science and spirituality. It's the bridge between the two. It's based on mathematics, physics, and topological math in particular, quantum physics. So it's a real mind blower, which we want to get the world to wake up to. Please tell us your point of view on that.
My point of view is that for all the reading and research that I've done, I have never seen a theory. I've never seen one that has been proved, and the only one, I guess I should say the only one I've ever seen is E=mc²,
Right.
which was Einstein's. So to me, everything that I have read in all the books, actually your theory is the science that proves them, so that it's not necessarily a theory. It's more factual. It's more the truth of what we are as human beings, our divinity. We are embryos of the divine, but I have never seen it ever in print anywhere else.
Exactly. That was the whole point of this research, which started for me many years ago. Back in 1969, I was a student at Maryland University, a junior, working at NASA. And I was hit by an epiphany on it was in November of 69. It was after we put Neil Armstrong on the moon on July 20th of that year. I was walking into my dorm. I came back from NASA one day. I walked into my dorm. I was asking a question: how can you explain the theories of psychology with math and physics? I was hit by an epiphany that almost knocked me over. I saw the mind as an energy field, transcending the physical brain. So it started me off on a whole new quest in life to try to prove this. Of course, I was laughed at by many people. You get excoriated right and left. It takes a lot of years, a lot of research, but we finally come up with, I think, what is a pretty cogent theory about that. And of course, the film is trying to make it more easy to comprehend for people. So.
I think the average person probably wouldn't understand all of those letters and numbers in your theory, but they would understand the truth of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we made the film, interview folks like yourselves, kind of bring it down to earth, different points of view, different ideas about it to make it easier to comprehend.
People have to be able to wrap their brain around something, to be able to understand it. Not just understand it, but to absorb and assimilate it. They need to be able to understand. So it's a good thing that you did that.
Yeah, it's kind of a jump because most folks don't really see the connections. Now, you mentioned before the Hindu idea. Can you tell us more about that?
Oh, it's one of my favorite myths, actually. Yeah. It's a story about Brahman, who... in the history of Hinduism, there were actually all men were gods, but they abused their divinity. So Brahman decided that he was taking it away from them and hiding it someplace. So he gathers a council of all the lesser gods to discuss where this should be put. First, it's on a mountain, and they all say, no, man will find his way up the mountain. Then it's deepest oceans, no, man will find his way into the ocean. Right. Deep in the earth, finally Brahma says, I got it. I know where I'm hiding it, within him, within man, because it is the last place that they will look for their divinity.
Exactly. So the search in life, the great quest in life, which is often externalized, really is discover who we are within. Mm-hmm. In fact, the myth structure used in film and novels going back to Joseph Campbell and so forth, and using a lot of action thrillers today, is based on that idea that a person goes on an external story and journey and whatnot, encounters all kinds of characters who are opponents to them, but the real discovery at the end is that they are a king or a queen, or actually a divine being within.
That's the hero's journey.
The hero's journey, exactly.
And Campbell. The heroine's journey.
And the hero's journey.
Woman takes to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So really a powerful, powerful story, often used now. So great, great stuff, yeah.
And I don't think I've ever interviewed someone that didn't mention the hero's journey or the heroine's journey. It's a very popular myth, and you're right, it's in every film. If you actually look at the film and then go back and look at the myth of the hero's journey, you see it played out. It's very predictable.
Yeah, it is. It was hidden for a long time by Hollywood. But when I went to film school, and I went to screenwriting school as well to help produce these films, we covered all those issues, and they really are powerful to understand. Because you have to build it in a certain way to make it work right. So fascinating stuff. So the idea of this is that this is the bridge between science and spirituality. That this theory tries to make it scientific to show people it all makes sense. So you can explain by science that we are spiritual beings. That science and spirituality have been in contrast with each other for centuries. Ever since science was formulated more by Bacon in 1602, there's been a big struggle about trying to control people's minds and so forth. We're trying to open people up and realize, look, it all makes sense that we are spiritual beings in these physical bodies, as you said, was Brahman.
Yes. Isn't that a great myth, though?
Great myth. I love that, yeah. So anything more on that? Yeah, go ahead.
I do think that when you talk about a bridge, a hard bridge, people need something to hold on to. I mean, if it's not faith, if it's not a Bible, some Kabbalah, whatever, they need something to follow and to cross over, because I think it's hard for people to get out of their own way. And we have to get to the divine part of our being, we have to get out of our own way.
That's right.
There's no other choice. That bridge, that hard science can lead the person out beyond what you and I talked about once, was the gravitational force of negativity, our thinking that holds us back. If that seed of divinity is within, that means it's coming out.
Exactly.
So like anything else, a plant to grow, it needs to be fed by positive thinking, hanging out with the right people, like you and I talking, having breakfast together, and discussing ideas. That feeds something that will burst forth and blossom. So I think that hard science is really necessary, especially today, in today's world, because people are actually, I think they're more interested in science, some of them, than religion, because a lot of that is built on faith.
Right.
And if you want science, you got it. You provided it.
Right. Well, having direct faith is good for some people. Some people can have faith and see things manifest, and that's great for them. Others need to see the science behind it. Why does it work? Why does it make sense? I mean, scientists, of course, are agnostics or even atheists. Even many medical doctors, believe it or not, are atheists, which is kind of hard to believe. So we're trying to show a way where this makes perfect sense. And what happens is, it gets into topic number 2, the idea of karma, and also various energy levels of the mind. And we can see here from this drawing here, there are concentric levels of energy which form around the center of the mind. If that's divine consciousness at the center, the ego forms in many levels. So we see the world through a glass darkly. So we have certain fixations, certain dy, dx. We use derivatives, of course, in our calculus within the theory, meaning that certain thought emotion fixations get lodged into the mind and block our view of what's really happening. So we project onto the world around us, and much perception is projection. So we see our own projections on other people and think it's real when in fact it is not. It's our projections. So the ego is what you're referring to. We have to transcend. We must transcend the ego, or let go of the ego, I used to say to patients.
Let go of ego.
Let go of the ego, because that holds us back. That traps us in that world of illusion. And think of most folks who are abused in childhood or neglected. They form all these fixations early in life which hold them back. They spend their entire lives overcoming those fixations. So it's really, really tough to help them see that. And a lot of patients make great progress, of course, and really do grow and expand. But I've used this theory in concert with cognitive behavior mod. It fits perfectly to help them understand that we are something much greater than we ever thought. And it goes way beyond the imagination of most.
I would agree with that, especially with the masses of people today. And that's why I think psychology is so important. The right psychologist can do wonders to clean that lens that you talk about. Because I think it's St. Paul who says, that we see now darkly, but eventually we will see as through clear glass.
Right.
So that means that we can eventually, but we have to keep wiping that lens off. And I think we come in with karma. If you look at a family of kids, they're pretty clear when they first come in, but as they start to grow and learn, they exhibit certain characteristics. Yeah. So those characteristics, as we know, we actually look for what we believe. Mm-hmm. So we gravitate towards those things or ideas, whether they're right or they're wrong, unfortunately.
Right.
But a person like yourself can help someone clear off that lens of wrong thinking.
Exactly.
And if we think, if we're paranoid, if we think the world is against us, if there's evil out in the world and we have to be out fighting it, all of that is part of karma. And what you talk about, the concentric circles, and depending on how thick they are, when I said that has to blossom, the divinity has to come through. Obviously, it has to come through those concentric circles.
Right. Or we have to remove those and dissolve those, because what happens is we project our energy outward, project through those levels, so we constantly create momentums, mass times velocity, to the outside world, which then reflects back to us. So we constantly create bad karma when those are negative fixations. This is what's most interesting. So we keep creating those problems over and over and over until we resolve and let go of what's called catharsis, releasing those fixations so we can transcend beyond it. That's exactly right.
I think epiphanies are the greatest thing in the world, because you go, oh my God, why didn't I think of that before? And then it's like that energy around that thought dissipates and leaves room for something else.
Exactly. Epiphanies are profound. And that's part of the approach of therapy, is to create epiphanies. A person can realize they had fixations and release those and transcend that. Eventually allow more and more energy to come through and see things more clearly. And they make choices which are better for them and better for people around them.
And resolve those issues. And once they're resolved, those lessons don't keep showing up in your life.
Exactly. So it's been expressed in many ways throughout history. You go back to the Old Testament, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Doesn't mean take an eye or a tooth. It means realize what you do comes back to you profoundly. You reap what you sow. New Testament reads the same thing. What you send out comes back to you. Newton's third law, same thing. What you send out returns to you in some like form. Karma returns you many, many times over until you learn the lesson. Once you learn the lesson, then you can transcend that and resolve and move beyond that.
I think one of the benefits of waking up is that we see the consequences of our actions, and then we don't have to go there. If we can see what the end result of them, whatever it is there. And a lot of people don't think of the consequences. They think of the action, but they don't think of the consequence of it.
That's very good.
But wisdom within, that divinity teaches us. The teacher is within.
That's right.
It teaches us, as long as we have trust in it, it will lead us in the right direction.
Exactly true. The teacher's within once we're ready for it. But you're right, folks don't often see ahead to the consequences of their behavior and therefore act irresponsibly, which is guaranteed to bring back disaster. So we must think ahead as far as we can. It's like being a 10-dimensional chess player. To see in many, many dimensions, see ahead, what's going to happen to your thoughts, emotions, behavior, what's going to result from what you do. And at times it's hard to see that because some things you can't predict. So we have to walk a higher path and follow a set of higher principles. That's part of it too, is walking a higher path, living by higher principles.
And living in the higher chakras. We talk about yoga and union of the mind. The lower chakras are the lower frequencies, and that's not where we need to live. We need to live from the higher chakras, from the belly button up.
Exactly. So one concept we often build upon is the selfless, not selfish, but selfless service to others. We always try to help other people, do the right thing, not harm anybody, always think ahead. How's it going to impact other people? Not just what we say or do, but what we think and feel. Because our thoughts and emotions also have power to influence. Your thought is energy. It projects beyond us to have consequences.
And if we ask the question, and that's how what I do, is I ask the question, how can I serve?
Right.
how do I be of service to the world? You've obviously asked that question for yourself because you serve the world through your psychology and through the film.
Right. And through the books, right. And you also. Yeah, and so many folks we're talking to, of course, are doing the same thing. But we want more folks to see these principles, understand that we must walk a higher path. The world now is in great danger with the nuclear weapons out there and the chaos and the politics, however people see things politically. There are great dangers all around us. So the more people of all cultures and all religions and all faiths and all ethnicity can see there are principles that link all of us together, which transcend all world religions, those concepts which link them all together. And that was part of the purpose of this film, these theories as well, to find what are the higher points, what are the higher paradigms, to explain it all, help bring the world together as one consciousness.
I really think that there's never been a time in the history of the world where what you have in this film is more important, because when people wake up, one of my teachers taught me is that when we are awake, consciousness, that intelligence is operating within us, we're not necessarily choosing. It's directing us. And it doesn't direct you to the wrong path. It directs you to the right, whatever the right way is.
Good point.
And if people don't wake up to that at this point, there's a lot of us gone down the wrong road.
That's exactly right.
So we need to. That's why it's so important, I think, for this film right now.
Yeah, good. Yeah, if we're driven by the lower frequencies, the lower desires, by fear, anxiety, guilt, depression, revenge, that type of thing, it's guaranteed to create disaster for ourselves and others and for the world. So we must elevate ourselves to a higher state, understand we all have divinity within us, and work towards creating that as a worldwide phenomena, as a worldwide awakening. We mentioned being awake. We need for the whole world to wake up. I think many people are, gradually, because they're seeing it must happen.
I would have to agree, because I obviously, in my 15 years with Natural Awakenings, there are more and more books that are being written on the subject. Well, they're created by demand.
Right.
So there's obviously a demand for that. And I forget who it was that actually made an estimate one time that there were 30 million people in the world who were awake, who were interested in the study of consciousness. I think it's probably beyond 80 million at this point. But someone talked about a spiritual tipping point. Do you recall that?
Sure.
And it's something like 1% of the square root of the total. So if we have 9 million people or 8 million people on the planet, we need a collective of people who are awake, so maybe between 8,000 and 9,000 people.
So we need a critical mass.
We need a critical mass
of people,
to shift a paradigm. That's all that it takes.
If we think about minds connect with energy, the energy exponentiates as they connect at a higher level, the higher power within each of us and above each of us connects up between people to create a massive energy upon Earth which can be transforming. Whether it means pulled down to the lower levels, look at most of the movies made in Hollywood, the propaganda we're fed by the news media, all the negativity we're fed. Most films are about revenge, about anger, about killing, about murder, about genocide, all this stuff which fills people full of fear and anxiety. We need to elevate consciousness to a higher level, not degrade it. You know.
And then we create a field
Right.
that attracts, is like a magnet, then it attracts the right things, the right people, the right ideas into that field.
Exactly. Perfect. And speaking of fields, you mentioned before, and our third topic is about gravitational field. In fact, we each actually create our own gravitational field of thought, emotion, fixations, about which we must eventually try to transcend and escape. And we were talking last week, and you were talking about the Thunderbirds.
Yes.
And then I got the idea, yes, gravitational field is personal. So please tell us your quotes.
I wish I knew why, but for some reason I am so obsessed with the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. So I've been watching their videos. There's quite a few of them on YouTube. And they talk about the afterburners.
Yes.
And they talk about the G's, the force fields.
Gravitational field, right.
And they have to escape that. That's what you said, I think the afterburners are for. It pushes them up further.
Yep.
So that, for me, I relate to thought in that my negative thoughts are what I have to, that's the force field that I have to escape. But I have to reach a certain velocity before I can actually escape that force field.
Right.
So what I was thinking of when you and I were talking was that tornado creates, it sucks everything down into it until you get to a certain point, and then it starts spitting things out instead of sucking them in. So that, to me, that gravitational field is what was created by our history. Whatever viewpoints, worldviews that we have, holds us down until we can escape that. And we only do that through reading, through practice, through getting introduced to ideas that you have. We plant seeds, and those seeds grow and blossom.
Right, exactly. So we talked about escape frequency. So in terms of physical plane, is escape velocity. But the formula we used in Dalrymple's law in 1978, which we first published back then, is E equals m, or where m is the mass of the thought, emotion, fixations of the energy field, times f squared, where f is a frequency of thought, divided by the square root of 1 minus f squared over c squared. And as f approaches c, energy approaches infinity. So the escape frequency that we each have is what is our frequency of thought, which allows us to break free of that gravitational field that we create of thought, emotion, fixations. So each person lives inside the prison of delusions that we create and that we believe in falsely because we see the world through a glass darkly. Through the self-fulfilling prophecy, we project outwards what's within us. It reflects back to say, see, I was right. I knew it. I knew it all along. In fact, we created it, right? So we must create a much higher level of frequency of thought for ourselves and for others to break free of that mold that we grew up within. You mentioned when we're first born, we often are in contact with a higher power, and kids really are in contact with the divine.
I agree.
It's amazing to see how much in contact they are. I'm always amazed by kids to like the age of 5. And then the ego starts to take over. And then they start to fixate upon negative thoughts and feelings, anger, fear, defensiveness, because they had to treated by other people. And so they then get encased in this world of delusion, which then they must break free from later on. So if we could avoid them being fixated at a young age, start teaching them these principles at a young age, so they can avoid that and start developing their divine contact right from the start, that will transform the world as well.
I think the science should definitely be taught in schools.
Right.
That way we give kids a leg up.
Right.
Even the ones who are growing up in a negative environment, at least they would get that in school. It would be some sort of a touchstone. You would be planting the seed so that they would have something to think about. It would grow. So in some sort of science class, I don't know whether they teach quantum physics in school or not.
Well, we call it divine science, Quantum field psychology really is divine science, or the science of divinity within us, how it makes sense scientifically. Again, using calculus and topological mathematics and quantum physics, which scares off most people. And that's the problem we face.
Yes.
Trying to bring this to all the experts out there into space. We mention math, physics, and they run. Oh, time for lunch, got to run. And they're gone because it scares them.
If you can speak to people through analogy and metaphor, and I think one of the gentlemen in the film spoke about the analogy.
Right. Yes.
And so when we speak in terms of, and one of the things I like to use, a picture in my mind, is that of a nautilus, the shell.
Yes.
So that the divinity is planted in the very center. Now, this goes like this. It goes round and round, which is virtually the spiral of our life.
That's right.
Until it grows out. So that is planted. If we already knew that was there, if we started out with that, that we had a clue, we cannot, when I say we have a clue, my philosophy is you cannot search for something you have never known is missing in your life.
Right.
So if you're looking for wholeness, it's because you tasted it at some point in your life. You came in with it. You can't know something is missing. You can't. If you sat down to a meal and it needed salt, you would have only known that it needed salt if you had tasted it before.
That's true.
So we come in with a taste of wholeness.
Right, exactly. We're born with that. We must read it, or find it again later. He said it's hidden within.
Yes.
Hidden within our own being. It really is an amazing thing, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So,
I'm really glad to be part of this, to even sit down and have this conversation about it. It's, I usually, after you and I have conversations, I usually leave about 2 inches off of the floor because I have new ideas to pursue, new thoughts to write about.
Right. Well, that's great. I'm really glad. Yeah, it's been a great synchrony. And minds do synchronize. We have a lot of great folks in the film. Each person adds something to it, which elevates thought and feeling and insights. So we hope a lot of people want to see the film, The Endless Question. and read the book, Quantum Field Psychology, and our other books, and your books, of course, which are all designed to help awaken people.
That's what we're here for, Ron.
That's right. To higher lights. That's right.
To wake people up.
Exactly. Thank you, Linda, for joining us here on another episode of Mind Shock. Can you please tell our listeners and viewers where they can go to find more information about you and your great works?
Well, thank you for having me first. And yes, people can find my books on Amazon.com. They can look on my website, which is easy, lindasechrist.com. And my books are Unleash Your Magnificence and Wisdom of Midlife Women 2. Those are both ebooks. And the paperback book that was just released recently is All We Need Is Love. And that's a compilation of essay chapters by Betsy Chase and Kate Montana. You need those names because there's several versions of All You Need Is Love.
Well, great. Thank you very much. And for our books on quantum field psychology, please go to Amazon. We have our books there. The Inner Manager, which is a short course in mind development, which preceded quantum field psychology. The book Quantum Field Psych itself is there, as well as 8 Days of Creative Power and I Love You, God. Those are all books available as Kindle and hard copy. And our new film, The Endless Question, will be available on various streaming services, so look for it there. And what we'd like to do is have you like, share, and subscribe to this show. Please share with other people. Tell them about this so we can spread the word. Any final comments?
Yes, you can find, I have a Facebook page.
Oh, please go on, yes.
That's easy too, Linda Sechrist. And all of my articles that I've written for many years are on naturalawakeningsmag.com. You can go on and read those and enjoy them.
Thank you very much. And all our books also in the film are also on Facebook. So thank you all very much for joining us for this current episode of Mind Shock.
This has been Mind Shock with Dr. Ron Dalrymple. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to future episodes. Check out our website for more content